Well, I'm waving to start the camera. It is finally August and Dollar Tree is putting out all of their fall items, so you know what that means. It is time to start our fall projects. You're watching Lavender and Lace. I'm Alicia. Please give today's video a thumbs up if you enjoy the projects. And it is also part of a collab, and I will tell you a little bit more about that later on in the video. But for now, let's get started with these fall DIYs. Grab either some toilet paper tubes or paper towel tubes for this project and some yarn. And I have seen this one all over Pinterest. And even though I'm not on TikTok, I've seen clips from TikTok of this project. So of course I wanted to give this one a try myself. And I picked up those Just Chenille yarn at Dollar Tree, and then I had a couple of skeins in my stash that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I crochet, so I always have a lot of yarn on hand, and this was a perfect project to use up some that I needed to get rid of so I can buy more. Of course, I do need to find some orange for this project. But I did start by measuring out my cardboard tubes. I measured them into 1.5 sections. You can actually just cut the toilet paper tube in half, and those sections will be a little bit bigger, and you will have larger pumpkins when you are finished with these. And I just cut down all of my sections, and I did the same thing with my paper towel roll as well. And then you will want to cut some slits in the top and the bottom of each of your cardboard rings. This will just help you shape your pumpkin the way that you want it to and have a more natural look to it once you have that finished. And when you have all of those slits cut, you will want to fold them in towards the center of your cardboard rings, and that will also help you when you are shaping this while you are wrapping your yarn, as well as when you have it completely covered. And I started with this kind of mustard yellow colored yarn, and I just unraveled quite a long section of that. While I was doing this, I did learn not to cut so much off. It was just a little bit easier to get that through the center of my cardboard ring. So I just cut off the piece of yarn that I wanted to start working with and added just a little bit of hot glue on the inside of my ring, and just placed that yarn on the inside and just let that dry for a couple of minutes so it wouldn't pull out that yarn piece once I started wrapping everything else. And you'll just want to put your yarn through the center of your ring and just make sure that you're pulling that kind of tight, not too tight, or it will kind of cave in your top and the bottom of your cardboard ring. So you just continue that until you have this completely wrapped, and you will just kind of push your sections together a little bit so you don't have any gaps in your yarn. And you can do one layer with this really chunky yarn like this. You get a nice finish with this one. Or if you have a thinner yarn and those Dollar Tree yarns are a little bit thinner, you might want to do a couple of layers, or just put a couple of layers here and there to make sure you have all of your cardboard covered up. And I absolutely love doing pumpkin DIYs for the fall. I think that's one of the crafts that I do the most of, is pumpkins. And once you have everything wrapped, you'll just want to kind of press in all of those tabs that you had cut with those slits. This will just get that pumpkin shape that you want, and you will just trim off your yarn and add a little bit of hot glue to secure that down. And also, I did learn while I was doing this project, if you have a larger gap in the center and it doesn't close up the way that you want it to, you can take a smaller piece of yarn and just glue that to the bottom of your pumpkin so you don't have any holes left. And I will tell you, this is a bit of a process. It took me probably 10 or 15 minutes per pumpkin while I was wrapping that yarn. So just keep that in mind. This is something that will take you a little bit longer if you want to make several of these. And I just had some sticks that come from some trees out in our yard, and I just cut those down into smaller pieces with my tin snips, and I added those to the top of my pumpkin for the stem with just a little bit of hot glue. And I had some of this orange pitberry in my stash, so I just cut off small pieces of that and wrapped it around my finger to get a nice spiral. And I just glued that on the top with my stem to add just a little bit extra cuteness to these pumpkins. You could also add some Spanish moss or raffia, or you could add a cute little bow to the top of these, but I think these are absolutely adorable, and you can do whatever colors that you want that match your decor. And I also thought it would be a really cute idea to add a bamboo skewer to these, and you can use them as picks to add to any floral arrangements or just stick in with your other fall decor this year. But these are so easy to do. They do take a little bit of time, like I said, to wrap that yarn, but I think it is well worth it. These are absolutely adorable, and I just love the way that these turned out. Let me know what you guys think about these, and have you seen these everywhere already, and have you tried them yet? Today's video is part of the Autumn Inspiration Open playlist, and this is hosted by Katie from Lady Red Crafting and Loli from Loli D's Creations. The guest host this month is Jackie from Jackie Burns Creations. You can find links to all of these wonderful creators in the description box, as well as a link to the full playlist, and you will find tons of ideas for your fall decor this year, so be sure that you check that out. And now let's get back to our DIYs. I found these placemats last year at my local Dollar General store, and I just thought they were really pretty, but I didn't really have a plan for these or an idea, so they've just kind of been hanging out in my craft closet since then. And I finally had some inspiration on how I wanted to use these, and I think this is an original. I haven't seen it before, so you guys let me know. And this vegetable and flower seed design is a DIY that I did back in the spring. And if you're interested in seeing how I did that, you can find it in this video right here. And I will leave a link for that in the description box as well. So my idea for this, the first thing that I had to do was I had to trim down those placemats a little bit. They were just a little bit too long for what I wanted them to be for this project. So I just measured out how much I needed to cut, and I drew out a straight line because I cannot cut a straight line without a guide to go by, especially when it's a little bit harder of material or thicker like these placemats are. So I just trimmed those down, and I tried to get these perfectly straight while I was cutting them. And I really wanted to use my paper cutter for these, but of course they were a little bit too long to fit in there. And I just used that first one that I cut down as a template and cut my second placemat as well. Once I had both of those cut down, I did just place them back on the top of my wooden drawer. This was actually something that I picked up at an antique store a few years ago. I think I actually grabbed about 4 or 5 of these, and I have used them for several different projects. But I just wanted to make sure that I had these cut off enough for what I want to do with them. And I also grabbed this absolutely gorgeous calendar from the Dollar Tree. It seems like these are hit or miss for me. I can either find some really good designs or I can't find anything, especially the ones that everybody is looking for and grabbing. Sometimes I am lucky and find those, other times not so much. But these had some really gorgeous fall designs, so I did just go ahead and pull out all 3 of those. I wind up just using 2 of them. And I did love the design on these placemats, but for the sake of DIYing and coming up with an idea to use my calendar pages, I decided to put those in the center of each of my placemats. So I just measured out how much I would needed to trim off of these. Of course, I wanted to get rid of that hole at the top of each of these calendar pages. So I just used my paper cutter just to trim off however much that I needed to so it would fit perfectly in the center of each of my placemats. And I thought these designs just coordinated really well with that buffalo check design on either of these placemats. And these calendar pages are really thin, so you could glue down a piece of computer paper on the back of these because I could still see a little bit of that design from the placemat through my calendar page, but I opted to just glue it down without doing that computer paper. I just used an Elmer's glue stick to help me glue that down, and I also just took my brayer and made sure that I had a very good hold between that paper and the placemat. This also helped me remove any bubbles or wrinkles that I may have in that calendar page. And of course, I just repeated all of those steps for my second calendar page and placemat. And I absolutely love this Hello Fall design with the pumpkins and kind of that wreath shape. And just to soften those edges there between the calendar page and the placemat, I took some burlap ribbon, and I get this from the Dollar Tree, and I just cut a couple of pieces that I would need to glue on either side of my calendar page, and I just used some of my Aleene's clear tacky glue. I didn't want to have any of that, the hot glue. I thought about doing that initially, but I opted not to because I didn't want to see any of those big globs of hot glue that you could get left, especially with this ribbon that has a lot of the gaps and the holes in there. And I used just one of my silicone spatulas just to make sure that I had that pressed down firmly and all of the sections of my ribbon were attached to my placemat. And I also did that for the second one, and I just picked this lace ribbon for that. You could use whatever that you have in your stash. You could use even some of like the beaded stickers that you can find at Dollar Tree or jute twine, just whatever that you might have on hand. And now back to the wooden portion of this. This is kind of serving the purpose as a display stand for this project. I just lined up my placemat and I marked some little dots on the top and used my crocodile just to punch some holes in the top. And I did that for both of my placemats. And then I just lined that back up with the wooden drawer and marked that as well so I would know where to put my cup hooks. So I get these from Walmart and they are very easy to work with. So I just place those into the top of this wooden frame, and I actually go back and do a third one. You will see that in just a little bit. And then all you have to do is add your designs to those hooks on your sign, and you can have several on here. I think you guys will probably be seeing this again as for a Christmas project. I'm going to use both of these placemats and they will be double-sided. And I thought this was a really smart way to display these, and it will also be kind of a space saver. So not only will I have something for spring and fall, I will also have something for Christmas and maybe even the new year. But here I'm just going back and just adding that third cup hook to the top of my sign so my placemats would hang the way I want them to. And I found some really gorgeous ribbon at Dollar Tree recently. I love the one with the pumpkins and the mushrooms. And I also had the orange buffalo check and that lace ribbon. And I can't remember if that sage green one I got from Dollar Tree or not, but I thought it would coordinate nicely with all of my prints and my other ribbons. So I just cut out some lengths that I thought would be long enough to make a bow. Unfortunately, I didn't have a long enough piece of that kind of burlap and lace ribbon to go with this, but I think all of the other colors look very good together. So I just kind of start my bows by making an awareness ribbon and just kind of scrunching that in the middle. And I used a clothespin just to hold that together while I was working with all of my other ribbons. And for my green ribbon as well as that orange buffalo check, I just tied a shoelace bow for those. And I started layering all of my bows together and just pinching them in the center until I had everything put together. And this part of this project is totally optional. You can leave the bow off if you wanted to, but I thought it was just a really nice addition to this project. You could even do kind of like a swag with some greenery if you wanted to do that. And I just took a pipe cleaner and I twisted all of my bows together, but I decided I didn't like the way that it made those smaller bows look in the front. So I took those off and then just redid that pipe cleaner and secured my two larger bows together. And then I just used some hot glue to attach my green bow as well as my orange buffalo check to the front. And then I just dovetailed all of the ends of my ribbon on each of my bows. And I had some orange and white pip berries in my stash, and this one came from Hobby Lobby. So I just cut off 3 smaller sections of this. I thought this would be a really cute addition to that bow and make it look just a little bit more farmhouse. And I just wrapped that around my finger. And you could use a pencil as well to help you spiral your pip berries. And then I just kind of put them in between the orange and the pumpkin and mushroom ribbon. I just put those in without glue first to see where I wanted everything, and I decided that some of these were just a little bit too long for me, so I did just take my wire cutters and cut those down smaller. That's the thing about these projects, you can make adjustments while you are going and just create things that you are happy with and the way that you like them to look. So I just added a little bit of hot glue in between those ribbons and just added my pip berry and held that together until my glue had set up. And then for my pipe cleaner, I just created kind of a little loop on the back of that, and I trimmed off any of the excess pieces that were a little bit too long, and I just used my wire cutters to do that. And now that I have that loop, I can just easily hang my bow on the top of my sign. And of course, you can make one of these to fit whatever season or theme that you have displayed on this piece. And this one is finished. I absolutely love how this one turned out, you guys. I am so happy with this, and I think it is just beautiful. Please let me know in the comments if this is something that you might try, and if you've ever seen anything like this with calendar pages and placemats. I have a ton of pieces in my wood stash, so I just looked through and found things that I had that I thought would work well for this project. I grabbed one of the wooden crates from Dollar Tree as well as one of the wooden plaques, some dowels, a picture frame, a wood block, a ring, and a finial. Some of these things did come from Hobby Lobby. But I thought I might be able to use that picture frame and just use it on the top of the plaque. So I just played around with the placement of that. and was just kind of measuring to see if that would fit, and I opted not to use the picture frame. Instead, I used that smaller wooden block that I had, and these did come in a pack from Hobby Lobby and different shapes. And I also needed to decide between that wooden ring or the finial, and I decided to go with the wooden ring for this project. And here I am just kind of measuring out where I need to place my dowels on top of, well, actually on the underside of that plaque. So I just placed that crate down first, and I just marked out some little corner measures on the underside, well, what will be the underside of my wooden plaque. I am going to be putting everything together with some hot glue, and I was just trying to figure out an easier way to make sure I had everything lined up and make sure that that top portion of this would be centered. So I just took some hot glue and added all of the dowels to each corner of that wooden box. And you could also, instead of using that wooden plaque for the top portion of this, you could use just another one of those wooden crates that's the same size. I just didn't have another one that was the same size with the star cutouts, so I opted to use that wooden plaque. But I just glued the wooden ring to the smaller wooden square. I did the same thing here. I just put that in the center. I wanted to make sure that I got that centered on the top of this project. Just used a ruler to make sure I had my placement correct, and then I just marked out those lines once again with my pen before I glued that down. And if you haven't figured it out yet, excuse me, I am trying to create a lantern. So just to glue that top portion down onto the plaque, I used some wood glue, super glue, as well as some hot glue. And anytime you are gluing something onto the dowel rods like this, it is very tricky. I always have a hard time getting this placed exactly right. But I just added some hot glue to the top of each of those dowels, and I tried to place that where I had made my marks so I knew everything would be straight and lined up. And instead of staining this, which was my original idea, I opted to take this out and use this hammered cocoa brown spray paint. I thought this might have a really cool effect on wood, and I am so happy that I did that. I just love the finish that I got from this. And now to start working on the embellishment part of this project, I just grabbed some of my floral foam and just cut a smaller piece that would fit into the base of my lantern. And I also found these LED candles at Dollar Tree. They come in a 3-pack. You get kind of a small, a medium, and a large. And I used the largest size for this project. And I didn't know if I would leave my candle in there while I was adding my florals or not. So I just marked that out as well, so I would be sure and not put any florals where I needed my candle to go. And all of these picks came from the Dollar Tree. My store locally has a lot of fall picks and florals right now, and I really love those cattails. They had, I think, 3 different colors of those, the orange, a yellow, and kind of a chocolate brown. So I just picked several things that I thought worked well together. I am not a professional at florals, but I do like to play around with these. So I just cut everything apart into smaller pieces. And I actually left these a little bit longer to start with, and then if I needed to trim them any, I just used my wire cutters again and cut those to the size that I needed them for wherever I was placing them inside my lantern base. So I just added those bigger, longer pieces towards the back of my lantern, and I love these eucalyptus picks. They had a new color of this actually this year. They had kind of a cream colored as well. So when I am working with florals, I just start adding them, and I actually didn't use any hot glue at all to put these in that floral foam. And that would just be easy for me to change these out if I want to, and I will probably do that. I will use this lantern for all seasons and holidays. But I just added all of my picks in. I kind of wanted them to be bigger in the back of this and kind of get smaller as they went around towards the front of my candle. So you just do whatever makes you happy and what you think looks the best for your project. And once I had all of my florals and everything added, this project is finished. I think this one looks very high end and might be something that you would find at Hobby Lobby or even Pottery Barn or Kirkland's. But I think this one is just beautiful. Let me know what you guys think about this one. That wraps up our fall DIYs for today. I hope you guys enjoyed these projects. Please give this video a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to check out the playlist in the description box. If you have not subscribed already, I hope you will consider doing that. And remember to also click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new videos that will be coming out soon. I hope you have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next one.